Wrestling with the Basics is a production of KFUO Radio, Christ for you, anytime, anywhere since 1924. Text the letters KFUO to 41444 to join the legacy with your tax-deductible gift.
We're on a mission from God.
Now, something completely different.
Let's get ready to rumble! Yeah, baby, yeah!
Good morning. I'm Pastor Matt Youngblood Clark from Ascension Lutheran Church in South St. Louis.
And I'm Pastor Jolly John, well... Not quite as jolly as I usually am. The tryptophan hasn't worn off yet, Matt.
From Thursday,
From Thursday, yeah. Man, we had a lot of tryptophan, and, sometimes it takes days. I'm sorry. I'm John Lekumsky, pastor at St. Paul's Lutheran in New Athens, Illinois, and Trinity in Darmstadt, Illinois. And this is...
Wrestling with the Basics.
With the Basics. Oh, man.
I'm trying to keep you awake, John.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I ate too much. They say, Matt, that it actually isn't the tryptophan.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you that think it's the tryptophan in the turkey that makes you drowsy.
They
say
the gravy, the stuffing, the pies, the cranberries.
It's eating all of that stuff. That's what they say.
That's what my guess would be, too.
Much. Yeah. So don't worry about the tryptophan.
Yeah, blame it on the tryptophan, huh?
Okay. But by the way, before we go any further, Matt,
yes.
we've been getting, people have been writing, say, where are the really bad jokes? The last few episodes, we haven't been doing any really bad jokes.
Is that right? It's been missed, huh? Were they praises or complaints?
I don't know. That's probably it. I don't know. I should have looked. I just assumed, but maybe thank you. There's no bad jokes. So let me start with a bad joke that has to do with eating. Since we are in the Thanksgiving weekend here, we did a lot of eating. So a lion is going through the jungle and he encounters two men. And one man is sitting there and he's got his Bible out. He's reading his Bible. And another man is a pastor and he's busily writing out a sermon. So the lion's got to choose which one to eat. So you know which one? Did he choose the guy reading the Bible or did he choose the pastor? Right? Which one did he choose to eat?
You get a 50-50 shot here. Yeah. I'm going to go with the sermon writer.
No.
Oh, the other guy.
No, he ate the guy that was reading because Reader's Digest writing cramps.
Holy cow!
That is really horribly.
Well, if they were missing
bad.
the bad jokes,
That's right.
I think you just made a bunch of people very happy, John, because that was a bad joke.
That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. That's right. Reader's Digest, writer's cramp. So, Matt, we've been doing the Reformation.
Well, I was going to give thanks to something.
Let's go ahead.
Since
Let's
this
do
is the
that.
season of giving thanks, I need to say thank you to Pastor Jolly John because...
Yeah?
Because he is coming in as we're recording this on a day we don't normally record.
Oh, well,
all the way
thank you.
from New Athens.
Yeah.
On a day when he's not typically at KFUO. So thank you for doing that. And the reason he's doing this is because I have a pastors' conference in the Missouri District coming up. And it's down in the Lake of the Ozarks, which is a pretty nice place to have a conference.
I was going to ask you where it was at because, you guys go to really nice places
Southern
for
Illinois,
conferences.
where you guys head?
The local White Castle.
Making things up.
They got a room in the back, and that's
For the pastors.
But yeah, you go to the Ozarks.
The Southern Illinois District, the envy of the Synod, with their White Castle conferences. Well, we're heading to Lake of the Ozarks. We're staying at Tantera.
At Tantera, of course.
It's
That's
not
right.
too shabby,
the 5-star hotel resort in the Ozarks.
I bring this up because have you read that Tantera has actually been changing its name? I think it's been bought out. Really, it has, and it's being changed to. It is now Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville.
Oh, you're kidding.
So next year, Pastors Conference, I suppose, is going to be at Margaritaville. So you've got White Castle, we've got Margaritaville.
Oh, shoot.
I was talking to we have field worker who's studying to become a pastor at Ascension. He's in his 4th year of studies at the seminary, and his vicarage was in the Rocky Mountain District. So, so where do they have their pastors' conferences? They have it in Breckenridge, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
I think they've got both of us beat.
My goodness.
Boy.
Yeah.
So anyway, just giving thanks to Jolly John. Thanks for coming in as we record Wrestling with the Basics, as we bring our listeners the newest and freshest material.
And so, as this is the Thanksgiving weekend, which is, by the way, not a religious holiday.
Isn't that interesting?
Did you have a church service?
Yeah, it's always, and rightly so. I'm glad we do, obviously. But it is the one time we gather together and worship for a secular holiday, really.
And that's right, yeah. This has only existed for what, maybe 150 years? I don't know. There are people out there that know the exact date when it was established.
It's kind of tricky because there's, of course, the Pilgrims and that celebration, but then you have these official proclamations that have been made by a series of presidents down through the years, but it's certainly not it's not something that's celebrated by the church as a whole. There's not Christians in other parts of the world celebrating Thanksgiving Day.
Only American, United States, as far as that goes. Christians will be celebrating. Yep. And certainly no quincentennial, is it? It's no quincentennial like the Reformation is.
The Reformation.
But so I have a text, I think, that describes, though, that the government is important.
Okay.
That we should thank God that we have government, and it's appropriate to have a Thanksgiving Day to celebrate this worldly government that God has established us. Okay, I think it might surprise you. You might think, but this is really, we'll show that this is all about the government. Okay. So would you start, if you could, please, at Matthew chapter 19, verse 16, it looks like. 16, yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, that's not it either. What did you told? Oh, there it is. Matthew 18 verse 21. Okay. I'm sorry.
About the government. Okay, well, we'll take a look
about the government.
Good, all right. Matthew 18, verse 21. Then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 70 times 7.
All right, so that has anything to do with the government. We'll come back to that. It will be, honestly, just stick with me. Don't give up yet.
All right. I'm hanging with you. All right.
Keep reading.
Okay, so, all right. Then Jesus goes on, therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king. Okay, well,
all right, so we're getting government there.
Type stuff,
all
a ruler. Okay,
thank you. I hadn't even saw that connection. What point is he trying to make? Oh, you're right. So we got a king. We got a kingdom.
There's a king with a kingdom. We can presume.
We got government.
Okay, good. All right. So far, so good. Who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. That sounds like a lot. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the master of that servant released him and forgave him the debt. When that very same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, pay what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded with him, have patience with me, and I will pay you. He refused and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master summoned him and said to him, you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me, and you should not have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had had mercy on you. And in his anger, his master delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt.
All right, let's stop there for the moment. So Luther, and I'm suspecting that he might have been drinking a few beers filled with hops.
Last week we recognized that, right? We could thank Luther for the hoppiness of beer. And so he makes an insight that I never thought of before. Because this is a great story. You know the story. You preach on this. Yeah.
But Luther points out that what the servant is doing here, where he goes to his fellow servant and demands that he pay him what he owes him, is actually right. Isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Somebody owes you something. Aren't they supposed to pay you back?
Yeah. So he owes him 100 denarii. So what that's about 100 days worth of wages.
Yeah, not a lot of money.
Not a lot,
but again, you owe me. You should pay me back.
Yeah, that's how it works,
Matt,
right?
you hear me? You should owe me. You should pay me back.
Okay.
What about that 20 I loaned you? That's been what? I'm sorry. We're on air. We can talk about that. Talk about that afterwards. But would you not agree that this is the principle of government, isn't it? Isn't the government all about you owe people, you should pay them, there's laws, you need to obey them, there's rules, if you don't follow the rules, there's consequences. This is the principle of the world.
It's pretty black and white. Justice has to be served.
And it's a good principle, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, without it, there'd be chaos, right?
That's exactly my point. If we didn't, honestly, if you didn't have the rule that you owe something, you pay it back, then people would never pay it back.
No.
They drive 100 miles an hour down the freeway. I mean, it's bad as it is, but thank God we have laws and rules. So we are thankful on Thanksgiving Day and every day, really, that God has established a government because we need that kind of regulation.
Yes.
So the problem is, however... Okay. Having established we need law and we need order, the problem is this is not a picture of the kingdom of the world, though, is it?
No.
In fact, what did Jesus say right from the get-go?
Because of verse 23, therefore the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king.
All right. So we're not talking about the kingdom of the world. Honestly, if you owe anybody, you ought to pay them back.
Yeah. Well, even our Thanksgiving services, the epistle readings usually about our government, right?
Yeah.
And praying for your leaders and those in authority, recognizing
lifting hands.
That they're established by God and they're there for a purpose.
And I want to go back because I think you hit it on the head because of chaos. Because there's plenty of chaos out in the world right now, isn't there? I mean, there's been tragedies happening. The guy driving the truck down the bike route in New York, and the Las Vegas shooting, and then, of course, a few weeks ago, this tragedy in the church. Even the church is not immune to this as the guy came in. And I think that's a perfect illustration because there was a law that said that guy shouldn't have had a gun. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have had that gun to do that. If the law had been enforced, maybe that might not even have taken place. So you're right. We need the laws or there will be chaos. But again, this is not the kingdom of the world. This is the kingdom of heaven. And how do you know it's not the kingdom of the world? What happens in this text that would never happen in the kingdom of the world?
Because they just don't make sense.
Yes.
That debts are forgiven.
That hasn't happened.
People that should be imprisoned aren't imprisoned. It's just it's not of this world.
I write to the IRS and say, read this text. Should I pay taxes? Do I need to? And they always write back and say, yes, you must.
Yeah. Are you gonna? It doesn't go over too well. Have pity on me. And I will pay you everything, IRS. Just be patient. Wait till next year. That doesn't go over too well.
They want it, and they want it with interest. And by the way, you had mentioned as you were reading this about the 10,000 talents. So what things have you read? Because you're right. This is an unbelievable debt.
Yes.
So have you read anything interesting about how to describe what a great debt 10,000 talents are?
Well, one talent is worth 20 years.
20
wages.
years.
20 years. That's incredible. So this guy owes him 10,000 talents. So that is, if I'm doing my math right, that is 200,000 years worth of wages.
Worth of wages, yeah.
I mean, it's astronomical, insurmountable. It's hard to even put a dollar amount on it.
Well, and they do, but you don't. Is it several $100 million? Is it $1 trillion? Someone pointed out that King Herod, who, I mean, this guy, you can't get any richer than he's only making 900 talents a year. So again, it's like, over 10 times a king's ransom.
Yeah.
The one that I just learned this year, though, that I thought was really neat, I did not realize that 10,000 is the biggest number you have in Greek. Did you know that?
No, it just stops at 10,000.
It stops at 10,000. Well, you don't need more than 10,000 in the days of Jesus. If you had 10,000 of something,
as high as you need to go.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
So this is the limit. This is the ceiling.
They don't have a number bigger than that. And of course, a talent, as you already alluded, that's the biggest denomination you can have. So literally, Jesus is saying think of the biggest amount of money you could possibly think of, and that's what this guy owed.
Yeah.
So it's incredible.
It's just an incredible amount. It's how did he even rack up that debt? You wonder.
Who would have given him that money? Who loaned him that? What kind of king is that would loan you that kind of money?
And I always think, too, 20 20 years' wages, 1 talent.
Yeah.
What if you lose that talent? That's a lot of money you're out.
Yeah.
Jeez, hold on to that thing.
You're not carrying around that in your billfold.
Yeah, no.
Got that locked
Put it
up
in
in
your
the
sock
bank.
drawer.
Yeah. So, and yet the incredible thing is, this is the kingdom of heaven, and as you said, this debt is forgiven and released too, which is I always thought was cool. So it's not just that it's forgiven; you don't need to pay it back. Yeah. You don't need to pay it back.
Yeah.
And here's the incredible thing you need to realize, people, that tonight or tomorrow or any day that you walk through the doors of the church, you have entered into the kingdom of heaven. Because that's what the kingdom of heaven, that's what the church is all about, that you are forgiven. You pointed that out so beautifully last week in the context of the third article, that it is all about forgiveness. That's what goes on. And God help us as Lutherans, and God help every church out there to remember that's what it's about. It's just about giving people forgiveness. We don't need to have them run up any more debts, and it's not about them paying off debts either by coming to church. It's just about the King saying, hey, here it is. You are totally and absolutely forgiven.
Yeah. And I mean, there's no other place where that's found.
Where else?
That's
right.
What's incredible. The IRS isn't going to give it to you.
Nope.
The government.
Your local Casey's, they won't do it. They want you to pay for every candy bar you buy.
Even the soft serve ice cream.
That's right.
24 hours a day.
Ted
7 days a
Drew's
week.
won't do it for you.
Not even Ted Drew's.
Yeah.
But it's nowhere else to be found except really in the church, right?
Yeah.
It's nowhere else to be found except for Christ. That's it.
And that's why there had to be a Reformation, the quincentennial of the Reformation, because the church had forgot that. The church had made it itself a place of debts, a place of making payments, buy some indulgences, do some religious works. No, the church is what we have right here. It is just the forgiveness of sins and God. And why, Matt? Look at this text. Why is it that God forgives this man his sins? Because he promises he's going to try harder and pay it back? Is that why he promises?
No way.
No.
What a bogus promise.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 200,000, what was it, 200,000 years worth of wages this guy owes?
Yeah. How are you going to do that? Ask me. Yeah. You're not even going to live maybe to be 100 if you're lucky. How are you going to do 200,000?
Yeah, and then he gets down, I'll pay you everything. No, verse 27, I think, is the key here. Out of pity for him, the master of that servant released him, forgave him the debt. Out of pity. And the Greek word is, as you know, John, is that word splagnizomai.
Oh, I love that word. Yeah.
I know, that's a good one.
From the gut.
This deep compassion and just, love, perhaps we could even say, this compassion, this pity on this man. And that's why he forgives him.
Did you see the light bulb go off? It's kind of dim. Now, in my age, it's kind of dim. Sometimes people don't notice it. But people, right now, those of you who are listening to Wrestling with the Basics, you have entered into the kingdom of heaven. Kind of a goofy part of the kingdom of heaven. No doubt.
Yeah, strange corner of the kingdom. But
has there ever been any show that we didn't just want people to know that God loves them and that he has forgiven them all their sins? I hope we've done that consistently week in and week out. So you have actually, by being with us, you have entered into the kingdom of heaven. Now, here's the problem. Within the next 15, 20 minutes, and if you go to church, it's usually within the hour, you got to leave the kingdom of heaven and go back into the kingdom of the world. Okay. And the kingdom of the world, as we already alluded, is a kingdom of laws and punishments. And so people are going to have to be doing that. We've got people listening to us who are parents. And when they leave the kingdom of heaven, when they quit wrestling with the basics, they're probably going to say to their kids who are listening with them, because I know we have a lot of families that listen to us, they're going to say to their kids, all right, it's time to go clean up your room. Have you got your homework done? They'll give them chores that they need to fulfill. And when it gets later, it's time to go to bed. You do that with Noah all the time.
Sure.
See, I don't have any kids to do that with anymore. My kids are all grown up. They moved out of the house. But yeah, we might have policemen listening to us. And when they get back in the kingdom of the world, they're going to pull people over and write them out tickets. Yep. And we've got employers, and we've got supervisors and foreman. That's the word I was looking for. Well, chairman too, I suppose.
Chairman too.
Yeah.
No.
And again, they're going to have to tell people, this is what you need to do. And if they don't do it, well, I'm going to dock your pay, or if you maybe have to fire you. And of course, there will be people like you and me that will be under those in authority. And so when mom says, go to bed, yeah, I guess we'll have to go to bed. If Lisa, the wife, says, all right, come on, time to get to bed, well, yeah.
Yep.
And when the boss tells us to go to work, we go to work. But Matt, I would think that having been in the kingdom of heaven, that would have to change the way you live in the kingdom of the world, wouldn't it?
Well, and I think that is why Jesus begins to tell the story in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all prompted by Peter's question. How many times do I need to forgive my brother?
Yeah.
How do I live my life out in the world, Jesus?
Yeah.
I think Peter thinks he's being generous by saying, forgive him 7 times. But no, he tells the story, and Jesus concludes it by saying, there in verse 35, so also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you, okay, if you do not forgive your brother from his heart. So in this kingdom of the world, we're called to forgive our brothers.
Yeah, and of course that's the verse that really crushes me. You must forgive your brother from the heart, because Matt and I have been Christian long enough that we know we're supposed to be nice to people we don't like. So you smile and you kind of nod your head, but of course in the heart we're still saying, you. And so now we realize that, we're the debtors. Yeah. This parable is about us. We're the guy that's run up the incredible amount of debt. And that's just one sin we're talking about, the failure to forgive the brother, the anger, whatever in our heart. And we could have done all the other commandments and shown us that we are great debtors. And I don't know what the answer is. If right now, if there's somebody you're having trouble loving, if you really are having trouble forgiving them in the heart, I don't know what else you can do except go on your knees and don't say, I'm going to pay you back or I'm going to try to do harder. Because you see, that's where you end up here. Then you end up not forgiving the brother, but choking him and doing all these mean things. I think all you can do is just say, Father, please forgive me, have pity on me. And then rejoice in the fact that the Father has had pity on you. And one more thing. What was the stipulation? So he throws, in this parable, the king throws the guy into the jail. Mm-hmm. And what one thing had to happen for this guy to get out of jail?
Let's see. The king. You're talking about the second guy?
Yeah, the second guy. Verse 34. Read verse 34.
Yeah, and in anger, the master delivered him to the jailers, and until he should pay all his debt.
That's right. So you are stuck in the jail until all your debt is paid. And of course, as Christians, we realize, wait, we got a better deal than just a God who loves us, who has zizomai for us. We have a God who did pay the debt for us.
Yeah. Because again, we realize what the debt is.
Yeah.
It's insurmountable, unpayable, 200,000 years worth of wages. No way.
Unless, of course, you're the Holy Son of God.
Yeah.
And you are giving your life as a ransom for many and suffering and dying and rising. And that probably would pay even, how many years was it again? 200,000 years worth of debt. Yeah, Jesus Christ could do that, and he did do that. And that's the joy. See, a lot of people talk about a God of love, and I'm glad. I want a God of love. But we have a God of love better than that. We got a God who actually pays for our debt. So guess what, people? You're not going to spend time in purgatory for thousands of years making up for the wrongs you've done. You don't need to worry about going to hell for an eternity because, your debt, not only did God love you, but God's paid that debt. So you're out. You're out free. And again, I think that would have to change us, wouldn't it, Matt? It would have to change us.
And that's the key, I think, that if we're struggling with forgiving our neighbor, someone who's sinned against us, I don't think the key to forgiving them lies in finding something worthy enough in them to cause you to forgive them. If they're a good enough person, then I'll forgive them. No, that's not it at all. It's realizing how much we've been forgiven and to know that we've been forgiven far more by God than we'll ever be called to forgive any individual person.
And I think it'll change the way we relate to our brother. It'll change everything we do in the kingdom of the world. As a parent, you're no longer telling your kids to go to bed because you want to be the boss. You want to show them who's in charge, but you will make those commands because you love them. If we go to work, again, we won't be doing our work just because we're afraid the boss is watching us, but we'll do the work because, hey, we maybe don't like the boss, but hey, he's one of God's people. God has put him over us. We want to do the very best and love we can do to him as God has done for us. So I see that's the great thing about this understanding that we've been in the kingdom of heaven where everything is forgiven. I think it totally changes the way we're going to be in the kingdom of the world as well. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share that, Matt. I appreciate that.
Yeah, a great lesson after this Thanksgiving Day celebration, I think. And I think it reminds me too of the prayer. Simply forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. God
good
us.
Point, Matt.
Thanks for listening this morning. And we'll see you next time on Wrestling with the Basics.